I hope that you're praying for those in our church that have had some procedures done this morning. Haven't heard the results. I'm sure that they're through them. I hope they are. Been praying for them, and so keep them in your prayers. You've seen those on the message board. We are in Job chapter 15, and we're in Job chapter 15 through Job chapter 18 today. And we've just finished the first round of, for lack of a better word, debate. Maybe that's a strong word. Maybe more conversation as a friend group and holding each other accountable, speaking to each other. And we're getting into this second round of speeches, and Eliphaz is the first one to speak. And he pretty much in chapter 15 condemns Job for his speech. And his speech is like, you say that you're righteous, you say that there's nothing there, but we know that God condemns the wicked, and all of these things that are happening to you there has to be something there. And Job made the comment in earlier that the wicked do prosper for a time, and Eliphaz is bringing this out, and he's trying to get him to see. He says in verse 2 and 3, he said, should a wise man utter vain knowledge and fill his belly with the east wind? Should he reason with unprofitable talk, or with speeches wherewith he can do no good? Yet thou castest off fear and restrainest prayer before God. So we kind of see, and he continues with this as he starts to talk about this, and he kind of censors Job and accuses Job of just being a windbag, just letting out air. And we get to chapter 16, and Job responds, and Job's response made me think of some things in my life, and probably over my lifetime. There have been times where I have not been a comforter to somebody that has a struggle. And it's made me realize that in chapter 16, Job answers Eliphaz's second round of talking, and he says this, and he refers to all of his friends in verse number 2. I have heard many such things. Miserable comforters are ye all. We don't know God's plan for people. And in this case, and of course we have the advantage to know at the end of Job that God tells his friends, you better pray and hope that Job prays for you, otherwise you're in deep trouble. We don't know what God's doing in somebody's life. It could be as a result of sin, but it may not be a result of sin. It just may be something that God's working in their life and trying to get their attention to continue their walk with Him, because sometimes we have to lay aside the weights, or sometimes, like in Job's case, God is using him as a testimony to Satan. And we need to learn to be the right kind of comforter, encourager, strengthener, a prayer warrior. And I as I look at that, as I see Job's response, I wonder sometimes in my life if people have responded that way to me, because I was like Job's friends. And I don't want to be that. I want to be somebody that encourages and strengthens. And so Job replies, and Job says that if they flipped roles, he would be one that would comfort. You see this in verse number 5. He says, let's look at verse 4 of chapter 16. I also could speak as ye do, if your soul were in my soul's stead. In other words, role reversal. I could heap up words against you and shake mine head at you, but I would strengthen you with my mouth, and the moving of my lips should assuage your grief. In other words, try to put it away. Try to forbear it. Bear ye one another's burdens. They could have come and said, here, Job, here's some money. Here's some things to help you to be able to heal, to do. That's not what they did. They came with accusations. Proof is in the pudding. Sometimes you just know people and you know what they've done and you know that. And there needs to be that tough love. But it still needs to be words of comfort to encourage them. Because Galatians chapter 6 says to restore people. And so as we look at this, they didn't come with that approach. And so Job in chapter 17 asks for God to prove his innocence. I mean, he just turns to the Lord. And when you and I get points in our life where we struggle, where things are happening, there's trials, there's tribulations, we just need to turn to God. Say, God, I need you to prove yourself to me. I need you to prove me that I am living for you, that I am doing what's right. That's why David said, search me and know me, O God. David wanted he wanted to be right with God in his walk. And so Job's hope was in God. Well, when we get to chapter 18, Bildad begins to speak in his second speech, and all of chapter 18 deals with this. And Bildad shows a lot of resentment towards Job and his thoughts and his ideas of his friends, that they're just out to get him and that they don't realize it. And Joseph, as we look at this, he basically said, you called this stupid. Look at verse number 3 of chapter 18. It says, wherefore we are counted as beasts and reputed vile in your sight. That word vile literally means stupid. You look at us as being stupid. Now these weren't stupid men. These were Job's friends, were very well to do, had a lot of wisdom. They were like, in a sense, to a point, maybe not to the level of Job, but they had somewhat of a walk with God. They understood what God expected. And so, and he was resentful to Job because of his reaction to them and what they said. And basically in verses 5 through 21, Bildad paints a picture of the fate of the wicked. In other words, he's unveiling in his mind what happens to the wicked and what takes place. They go into oblivion. They have a deadly disease. They are cursed by God. There's a symbol of what they are. And so all of that is what Bildad is bringing here to Job. And when we get to the next chapter, we're going to see Job's response to this. Now, we're getting to the point where we're getting closer to the end of Job, where God then steps in and begins to speak to Job. And in essence, God and Job have a conversation, and then God deals with his friends. But we'll see in tomorrow's walk through the Word of God Job's reply to Bildad. And then, of course, we're going to see Zophar's second speech, and we're going to see Job respond to him. And then there's more talk between them as we go further. And then when we get later into chapter 27, into 28, we start to see where God starts to speak. So learn from this. Look at this conversation they're having. Look at what Job says, and look at what the friends say. And allow that to try to encourage and strengthen you when you have a friend that's struggling or they're going through things. That's how I've tried to take this book as I read it right now, is a response with friends. Well, look forward to seeing you again tomorrow morning.